Hey everybody, hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Michael's Matters. Now, of course, as is the custom, I am Michael. And today, since it is the middle of the month and with a new fresh inflation data coming out, we're going to do our April 2023 COLA update. Now, the newest numbers that came out are a bit confusing to say the least, with some inflation metrics showing inflation going down, while other inflation metrics are showing that inflation is going up. And of course, the all important CPI-W, that is the one that actually dictates next year's cost of living adjustment or COLA for those folks on Social Security benefits. So that could be benefits like Social Security Disability SSDI, Supplemental Security Income SSI, or Social Security Retirement, as well as the VA and Railroad Retirement Benefits and other pensions that are tagged to it. And this one is showing that there is a trend for next year's adjustment that could mean a big change in how much money Social Security beneficiaries are going to get. So today we are talking about the newest numbers out from the BLS for inflation, how those relate to the upcoming COLA for next year, and whether or not, if the trend continues, we will expect to see a dramatically smaller COLA next year than folks got this year. Now, before we get to the video, if you like these videos, if you find them interesting, if you find them helpful, or if you find them useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. Or now, let's get down to the video. But first today, let's talk about the newest inflation numbers out for the month of March from the BLS. So that is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is the government agency that measures these kinds of things. And they came out yesterday with the new inflation numbers from the Consumer Price Index, which shows that although inflation is moving down month over month, down by 1% from last month, it is still up by 5% from March of 2022. So that's from last year. The CPI, more specifically the CPI-U, is a measurement of a basket of goods that the average urban worker spends on a yearly basis. So that can be things like shampoo or rent or cheese or electricity, or really everything. It also takes a look at what a person spent on those goods last year and then compares them to the current year, so this year. And that percentage of increase in costs from last year to this year represents what CPI-U is, or the inflation rate. In this case, 5%. That is all well and good, but there is another CPI, the CPI-W, which is the Consumer Price Index for the average urban clerical worker. And that is the one that is most germane to anyone on Social Security and to the cost of living adjustment, or COLA, because it is the inflation index that is used by the Social Security Administration to calculate the COLA. This number also came out in the same report and showed that the CPI-W for March 2023, the most recent data, in comparison to March 2022, the previous year, was up by 4.5%. So it is lower than the normal CPI-U that we just talked about, but it's still up by 4.5%, which is a drop from last month in February 2023, when it was at 5.8%, and even less so than where it was in January, where the inflation rate was above 6% at 6.3%. So what does this potentially mean for the COLA that will start January 1st, 2024? Well, last month we saw that the CPI-W has been on a continuous decrease, which means that according to this one measurement, that is the inflation that the average urban clerical worker is facing, the CPI-W, inflation is going down, which is good, right? But it also means the likelihood of another outsized COLA increase, like what we saw this year at 8.7%, is really getting less and less likely. In fact, its downward trend is likely to show that the COLA for this year could be as low as 3% or even potentially less. This is according to the Senior Citizen League, who also put out a release yesterday in response to the new BLS CPI-W report saying as much. Now, the reality is that we are still a pretty good distance away from the months of July, August, and September, or Q3, which is the months that are sampled by Social Security when they calculate the cost of living adjustment, or COLA. But if we were to take these 3 months CPI-W from right now, from January, February, and March, from the data that we have, the average of those months' inflation comes out to a 5.53% inflation rate, which would be a 5.53% increase in the COLA. So what does that mean in real dollars? Again, hypothetically, if they were to do the COLA right now, well, based on the average Social Security benefit for old age and survivors benefits for the month of February in 2023, which was at $1,747.72, it would mean that beneficiaries could see a COLA increase in real dollars about $96.71 in 2024, and that would be the increase in their benefits. This would put the average estimated 2024 Social Security benefits at $1,844.43 per month, or yearly $22,133. Now, of course, these numbers, whether it is the CPI-U, the overall measure of inflation, or the CPI-W, which is the measurement used to actually calculate the cost of living adjustment or COLA, they really don't tell the whole story about what the COLA should actually be for older Americans. Because eventually we find that the COLA in general falls short of adequately increasing people's Social Security benefits enough for them to keep up not only with inflation, but the actual cost of living in real life that seniors have. The main reason for this is because of the makeup of the baskets of goods that is in the CPI-W, because it is a basket of goods for the average urban clerical worker. Those average urban clerical workers, their costs are oftentimes substantially different from the average cost of older Americans. Older Americans have a higher cost associated with things like transportation, healthcare, as well as medications, and that is not reflected accurately in the CPI-W index. But there is a CPI that is specifically designed to better represent the costs that the average older American has, and that is called the CPI-E, or the Consumer Price Index for the Elderly. Luckily, this number comes out at the same time as all these other CPI numbers do, so we can actually take a look at and compare and see how much older Americans would get if they used this more accurate measurement, the CPI-E. So for March 2023, the CPI-E measurement actually came out to show that older Americans right now are in fact getting hit with inflation at a higher rate than either the urban worker, the average urban worker, or the average urban clerical worker. Because for this last month of March, the CPI-E came out to a 5.58% increase from March 2022 to March 2023. This means that seniors, retirees, and older Americans are experiencing inflation at a much higher rate, especially in comparison to what is tracked to the CPI-U and the CPI-W. And ultimately, what that means in real dollars, if for this hypothetical COLA, if they would do it right now and use the CPI-E with the higher 3-month average of the CPI-E coming out to 6.29%, that's a combination of January, February, and March, instead of having a $96.71 increase, like if they were to use the CPI-U right now, we should actually get an increase of $109.88 a month, or that pans out to about $1,857.60 a month in Social Security benefits for 2024 if CPI-E was used. Yearly, that comes out to $22,291.25, which is, not a king's ransom, but again, as my grandmother always said, on a fixed budget, every cent surely helps. Obviously, when we look at the metrics from the BLS that Social Security uses to calculate the COLA, there are some serious flaws. First, the CPI doesn't actually accurately account for seniors' costs. But also in the month of March last month, there is a peculiarity with the numbers where the overall measure of inflation, the CPI-U, is showing a continual decline, which means that the overall inflation is going down. But the CPI measurement, without specifically food and energy taken out of the calculations, it's showing an increase in costs from the previous month. And you can see that on the chart here, where they crossed right in mid-February. Now, the dominant reason for this is because of shelter, because the cost of shelter, although it is slowing down, is still moving up and putting increased pressure on all households, yes, but even more so on seniors, especially those who do not own their own home, but are renting. Now, this is ultimately bad because it means that if the overall inflation continues on a downward slide, but costs like shelter are going up, it means that there could be a COLA that is very low for next year, below 3% or even perhaps a 0% increase, all the while the actual costs in the real world for things like shelter are actually going up. And although it looks good on paper for politicians and presidents, it's going to look bad for seniors. I mean, because they're not going to actually have the resources they need to cover their daily costs of living. And at that point, what is the point of the COLA if it can't meet those goals? All right, so that's it for today's Michael's Matters, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, if you found it interesting, if you found it helpful, hey, you know what? If you found it useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates on our newest and most informative videos come up. So for Michael's Matters, I'm Michael, hoping that you take care of yourselves, take care of others, and have a happy, healthy day.